Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm your host, Brian Buckmeyer. Brother faces brother this week in the Pike County Massacre trial of George Wagner IV in Ohio. Jake Wagner is the state's star witness, recalling in chilling detail how he and his family planned and carried out the murders of 8 members of the Rhoden family and Hannah Gilley. Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy details the testimony.
What plea do you wish to enter in count 7 to the charge of aggravated murder of Hannah Mae Rhoden?
I am guilty, Your Honor.
That was Jake Wagner on the 5th anniversary of the murders, admitting to his role in murdering Hannah Mae Rhoden, the mother of his daughter and 7 of her family members. Wagner pleaded guilty on camera, but opted against having his testimony broadcast, which is permitted for witnesses under a rule governing Ohio courts. Wagner testified, quote, "I had decided I had no other choice but to kill Hannah." He said his father, Billy Wagner, first suggested the idea of murdering Hannah Mae because the family wanted full custody of Jake's daughter, fearing she might be molested by Hannah's new boyfriend. Wagner told the jury he fired the first shot at Christopher Rhoden Sr. after his brother, George Wagner IV, froze. Wagner said his dad fired the remaining shots to kill Chris Sr. and his cousin, Gary Rhoden. Wagner then said he shot Frankie Rhoden and Hannah Hazel Gilley in their home in the head as their baby slept between them. Then he said he shot Dana Rhoden, Hannah Mae Rhoden, and Christopher Rhoden Jr., all in the head in their beds. Hannah Mae's newborn was next to her. Wagner said his father shot the 8th victim, Kenneth Rhoden, but he said George didn't shoot anyone. As part of his plea agreement, Wagner led investigators to 3 murder weapons. They were in concrete buckets used to anchor a goose house Jake Wagner said he and George built as a gift for their grandfather. The goose house was on a lake on his grandmother's property. Wagner said he cut up those weapons with a grinder the morning of the murders.
Attorneys for George Wagner IV began cross-examining Jake Wagner on Wednesday afternoon. That will continue on Friday. For Law&Crime Daily, I'm Anjanette Levy.
Joining us today is legal analyst Dina Dahl and co-host Terry Austin. Dina, the courtroom is meant for the people, and in what is probably the most expensive trial prosecuted in the state of Ohio, the public has limited access. Does that seem right?
You know, I think that's a great question. Really, the reason why we want public access is to be able to ensure that our justice system is doing what they're supposed to do. As you say here, the state is spending quite a bit of money in this prosecution. And in this kind of unusual way, certain witnesses are not being recorded. And that's really how the public is seeing this trial, because there's such limited access to the physical trial itself with all of the news media. And so when they take away the streaming of certain witnesses, it really gives the public an incomplete view of what's going on in the trial.
Absolutely. Now, Terry, Jake and Angela took plea deals to avoid the death penalty for all 4 family members, including George and Billy. But together, the Wagners killed 8 people in cold blood. Was this the right deal for the prosecution to make?
You know, Brian, on the one hand, I understand how the prosecution wants to make sure they get a conviction here. And with the testimony of Jake and Angela, they are probably to likely get a conviction because they are testifying against their family members. But, you know, the crime occurred several years ago, over 6 years ago. There's no eyewitnesses, there's no video. So that testimony is going to be very important for that prosecution. But on the other hand, you know, this is a very heinous crime. There were 8 people who were killed, and no question about it, if the death penalty is for any type of case, it is for this type of case. This is one of the largest cases in Ohio, and I definitely think that there will be people in the community, and frankly, there will be people in the families who think that the death penalty should still be on that table.
All right, we'll see how this case continues. Thank you both. Well, police in St. Louis are trying to figure out how a young man was able to get back a gun that had been taken away from him and then used in a school shooting. Police say a 19-year-old opened fire on Monday at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School in St. Louis. He had graduated from the school last year. One teacher and a student were killed in the attack. Several others were wounded. The suspect was armed with an AR-15 style rifle as well as a large amount of ammunition. A fellow educator says the teacher who was killed put herself between the suspect and the students. Police had responded to a domestic situation a little more than a week before the shooting at the suspect's home. The police commissioner says his mother wanted the gun out of the house, but he was legally allowed to possess it. A third party took the gun to get it out of the home, but somehow the suspect got it back. After a shootout with police at the school, the gunman died at the hospital. A so-called rogue nurse in North Carolina is accused of intentionally giving patients too much insulin to kill them. Jonathan Howard Hayes was arrested on Tuesday. He was a nurse at a medical center in Winston-Salem. Prosecutors say he used insulin overdoses to kill or nearly kill 3 people. In December, Hayes allegedly gave a woman a near-fatal dose, but she survived. Then, just a week later, he's alleged to have given a fatal dose to a 60-year-old woman, and then another lethal dose to a 61-year-old woman a few weeks after that. The district attorney's office did not say what the 3 patients were being treated for, but it seems Hayes did not know them. So far, investigators say they do not know a motive, but credited the hospital's checks and balances system with helping to alert the medical examiner's office that something was wrong. Hayes is now in jail without bond.